Sasaki and Peeps episode 7. And I think this is the first episode since a long time, or perhaps even the first episode that we have seen the anime be more focused around the isekai world, or the fairy world. That is how they call it in the anime. But yeah, this is the first time since a long time since that happened, because before you had that the anime was more focused on the real world and not necessarily on the isekai world, or perhaps you had episodes here and there where the episode was more focused around both of the worlds, traveling between worlds. But this episode was purely, aside from the ending, just focused on the isekai world, which I like to see, because I think I said this in the previous episode or maybe even before that I would like to see a balance between the two worlds. Maybe this is asking too much, because normally you don't see those type of things in isekai anime, so it is maybe asking too much. But now that the anime has introduced us to the possibility of that being the case, I would like to see it, both worlds present, both worlds being important. And I think at this point in time the anime has been doing a really good job in that aspect, because maybe one episode focus a little bit more on one world and then the other episode focus around the other world. But generally speaking, I would say that they are almost perfectly balanced in terms of both worlds being important. And this anime, or I should say this episode, was another example of that. So yeah, this episode was all about, I guess you can say, politics, because the episode started with the king of the isekai world basically saying that now going forward he has 5 years until he, I guess, retires or lets the throne to another person, and he will let the throne to another person not by who has seniority or who maybe is better speaking. No, nothing like that. He will give the throne to whoever, I guess you can say, gives the more to the kingdom. So that is what he will do. He will do that, and because of that there are multiple people that are potentially able to become the king. And you have two factions mainly. One of the factions is one of the brothers, Adonis, and the other faction is the other brother. And because of that, you have that the world is currently divided. And when I say the world, I mean in reality the world of nobles and royalty and important people. So yeah, you have that the people inside that circle are divided between the two brothers. And because of that, that is causing a lot of troubles. It is even mentioned that there have been people that have died in the anime because of that. So it is not a simple matter. This is not a joking matter. This is actually really important. You can clearly see in the anime that it is not something that one should just throw aside. No, it is not like that. So yeah, because of that, we see that in this anime something really big happens again because of that whole situation, and that is that Marc was framed of basically, I guess you can say, insulting a royal or a count in this case. Because if I were to explain it in simple terms, the boss, I guess you can say, that Marc works with is really jealous of him, because now that Marc is making a lot of money thanks to him being aware that the fight or the war was going to end. Again, he made a lot of money, and because of that, the boss that he has is a little bit jealous. And one of the accounts of the rival faction of Mueller realizes this, and he uses that boss of Marc to basically frame Marc. And because of that, the rival count knows that Mueller will also suffer because of that, because he knows that Marc and Viscount Mueller are also working together. So yeah, he uses the boss of Marc to frame Marc. And yeah, that is what happens in this episode. We see that there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of little things happening here and there. It could be maybe a little bit confusing for a lot of people following everything that is happening. You even have that Sasaki is talking to a person, I forget his name, but he's the one that is from another kingdom, and he's setting up another company or another store in that kingdom in order to basically have more possibilities of selling his things. But this time that company, that store, will not be in his name. It will actually be in Marc's name, and I think he will do that because he wants to help out Marc in some way. I think that is part of his plan in order to help out Marc. I don't know how exactly that will work out. I don't know how putting the name of a company in Marc's name will help him out getting out of the prison. But yeah, like I said, that is something that he does in this episode. Another thing that we learn in this episode is that one of the things that we have seen throughout the whole anime is that Sasaki has been bringing items from the real world to the isekai world in order to sell them, in order to make a profit. But we haven't seen until now doing the opposite. We haven't seen him doing that. But this is the first episode that we actually see that, because the thing he will now do going forward is that he will sell the gold from the isekai world to the real world, and he will sell it to Shizuka Futari, as we saw at the end of the episode. So yeah, pretty interesting that the thing he was sell in the real world from the isekai world is something very simple, something that we all didn't thought of, but it was the most obvious thing, which was gold, which I guess it makes sense because it is mentioned that in the real world, gold is very scarce, so I guess it makes sense. So yeah, he's going to do that. He's already preparing everything to do that. We see at the end of the episode how he transported the gold to the real world in order to make a profit. So in a way, he has a very sustainable, I guess you can say, plan going on, because he's bringing real things from the real world to the isekai world that in the isekai world are very rare, and because of that he's getting gold, he's getting profit, and that gold, that profit, he's selling it again to the real world, and he's making profit because of that in the real world. So you can see how by doing one thing in the real world and then another thing in the isekai world, he's making things very connected, very profitable. And the funniest thing we saw in the episode was that of Elsa sneaking around or hiding inside the gold boxes. Before that, there wasn't a scene where she was hiding. I was wondering what that was all about, but then a couple of seconds later we saw that it was because she was hiding inside the boxes. I actually didn't expect her to suddenly appear in the real world. I actually don't know what is going to happen with that. There are multiple things that can come out of this, but yeah, that was pretty much everything that happened in the episode. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a thumbs up, and yeah, that will be everything by me, and I guess I'll see you all in the next episode review.